Hello and good evening to most of you here in the European time zone. Of course, also good morning for you if you're coming in from America, and a very late evening for you if you're coming in from the Asia Pacific region. My name's Daniel Wagner, and I will be a little bit of helping out with the webinar today. And I want to introduce in just a minute the host of today's webinar, Kevin Billett. And we also want to talk to you about and invite you to an opportunity which is a 3-day workshop to actually use the work that Kevin will not just share about, but hopefully allow you to experience um, at the end of this webinar. If there are any questions you may have, please hold on till the end. There is a segment of this live event, live training, where there will be space for questions. So just write them in the chat at the end when we invite you to do so. Depression, I just pulled some stats up here. 350 million worldwide. These are the ones who even admit to suffering from depression. Massive amount of people are suffering. And traditional treatments, and this again is studies that we've been able to unearth. Most people don't even seek medical help, and the help available in most cases doesn't really deal with the underlying issue. That's why I'm really grateful you're taking the time tonight to hear about a unique, holistic approach to healing depression with our host for tonight, Kevin Billett. So really, we got a lot to cover. So I want to bring Kevin straight here and ask him to take care of us in the next hour with this beautiful session. Thank you so much for being here, and I'll see you at the end.
It's a great pleasure, Daniel. Thank you very much. And I'll come back to you a little bit later if I may, because I know there are some things that you can share much better than I can share. And for now, for the next hour here, I want to invite you, please, if you would, to listen with your bodies, not with your minds. You know, we've got so much information about depression, what it's not, what it is, what we should do, what we shouldn't do. And we tend to analyze. For a lot of us, we tend to overanalyze. But the truth of it is that the benefits are in opening and listening with your body. So I may say some things that you disagree with. I may even say some things that piss you off. Please give me permission to do that, because I want to challenge the status quo here. And the best way that you can drink this in and find out if this actually is for you, if this is appropriate, if it works for you, is to listen with your body. And by that, I mean to tune into your kind of chest, belly, gut area, and just notice the impulses that are there. Notice what applies to you. Notice how it makes you feel. So rather than get locked into mind talk and go, you know, is this true? Is this 100% true? Is this always 100% true? And by the way, the answer to the last two questions is probably no. Not always true, not 100% true all the time. What I'm offering you are some pointers. And I'm offering you pointers that can lead you to self-discovery and to wake up to the true causes of depression and empower yourself to do something about it. So let's just debunk a few of the myths around depression first. I spoke about this on a very short intro a couple of weeks back, and I know I pushed a lot of buttons just saying this. I made some people angry. And it's the truth. A lot of people have got vested interest in selling you the orthodoxy, if you like. They make a lot of money out of doing that. Or some with good intent are just trained that way. And so they've perpetuated what has been handed down to them. But modern research, and I'm talking research over the last 10 or 15 years, has shown a few things. First, that depression in itself is not a mental illness. That's not what it is. It's not defined in that way or definable in that way. Yes, of course, if depression gets serious, it can cause mental dysfunction. It can cause all sorts of cerebral, chemical, thought processing difficulties for us. But we need to be clear about what is causal and what is definitive here. And for depression, it's not caused by mental illness. It actually causes or can cause mental dysfunction. And it's not what it is. Similarly with physical illness, I mean, depression has so many effects. When it gets serious, it compromises most of the systems in our body. and can cause physical dysfunction. It can be extremely physically painful. It can disable us. But same thing again, cause and effect. Physical illness doesn't cause depression. It doesn't define depression. It's the other way around. The shoe is on the other foot here. Depression can lead to physical ailments, no doubt about it. The same sort of principle here with what we've been told about genetics. Now, it's a complex field here, and we know that there are some propensities that are handed down to us epigenetically so that we can have a greater or lesser tendency towards depression. And that is true. What isn't true is that that makes it incurable or a life sentence. There are plenty of things we can do to alter the way that our genes express in our lifetime. If you've ever read a book by, I think it's called The Biology of Belief. I was thinking of his name a minute ago. His name will come up for me shortly. He's a beautiful scientist who I've actually met in person. And Bruce Lipton, that's the guy. So when I spoke to Bruce last about 3 years ago, he was affirming what he wrote in the book, saying that our DNA, our genetic genome, genetic kind of imprinting is actually a blueprint that can be expressed in many different ways. So it doesn't set us up for something that's inevitable. It doesn't mean that depression is incurable, and it doesn't mean that depression is going to necessarily last for a long time. Not if you know the way to approach it. So these things, not true about depression. Depression in itself is not caused by brain chemistry imbalance. Again, it's the other way around. If you get depressed, it can affect your brain chemistry very negatively. I've experienced this directly, but it's not causal here. It's an after effect, a byproduct of depression. When I healed from depression, and this is going back to, it's nearly 30 years ago now, 30 years later this year, that I woke up, discovered these beautiful tools from the journey, and completely turned around a life of cyclical depression. My brain chemistry was pretty messed up at that point. I had very, very serious depression. And over a period of, I'm going to say probably 2 or 3 months after doing the work on myself, my brain self-regulated and the chemistry came back into balance. So this is a possibility here. So we can go, okay, orthodoxy here. What does it tell us about the drugs that we're prescribed? Well, the truth is that the drugs that we normally take for depression, the SSRI type drugs, were not designed to treat depression in the first place. They were invented to treat anxiety. And they do that by turning down our emotional responses. And this is a bit of a problem because although they can have something of a positive effect, the truth is they're not curative and they don't work for everyone and they work to different degrees with different people. So we need to be aware here that the drugs are not invented, they're not designed to be curative. And so we need then to look at, okay, well, what is this? If we know what it's not, and we know the limitations of orthodox treatment, what can we say here? Well, what we've discovered, and I've discovered this with my wife, Brandon Bays, the founder and pioneer of the journey, who I've been working with since shortly after my first episode with the journey back in '94. I started to work with her in '95, and it's been one of my passions here, knowing that I had turned my life around from depression to a life of fulfillment and joy and just being grateful to be alive every day, something I'd never really experienced before. So I've paid a lot of attention over those years, worked with thousands of people directly or indirectly, and have reams and reams of feedback from people thanking me that their lives have changed fundamentally. So we need to know what depression is, and what we've discovered over that time is a few key factors here. Depression is caused by emotional suppression. This emotional suppression has probably been conditioned into us since early in life. So by suppression, I mean we're triggered and strong emotions come up. And we don't allow those emotions to be fully felt. We're never taught that that's an option. You know, my version when I was younger was I was in a household where I had two raging parents who didn't allow their children to get angry around them because they considered it disrespectful. So our buttons were pushed all the time, but no availability for feeling or expressing from anger. And so I shut down anger from very early time in life. And that has a cost over time. So we suppress, we push the energies back down in our body. We reframe ourselves internally, explain powerful emotions away. We avoid them. We pull back and withdraw and shut down and hide from them. We've got a myriad of techniques to avoid strong emotions. The truth is that comes with a cost over time. And we develop a habit of this type of closure that is so successful in avoiding these kind of sharp and painful emotions, the potent ones, the deep ones, that we forget that it's actually a technique that we're using. We forget that we've got a choice here. We forget that there's something else we can do. And this was what I discovered many, many years ago. So to be clear here, depression is a pattern or habit of emotional closure. So it starts there. There are many, many triggers. There are many, many other factors that feed into the setting up of depression. But ultimately, without emotional suppression, there is no depression. There may be something else, but not depression. And so our goal here will be during this weekend workshop to allow you, to teach you, to handhold you, so that you begin to open to the real underbelly of emotions that you experience in life. This is key here, because once you've opened to those emotions, they can no longer own you, define you, restrict you, control you, cause you suffering. Yes, there's short-term pain here. So this workshop is not for everyone. If you want someone to write a prescription for you, if you want someone to do the work for you, this is not it. This is for people who've decided, okay, I've come to rock bottom, or I've come to as deep as I want to go into this depression, thank you very much. And I'm willing to take some action. I'm willing to own my own problems, my own issues, and I'm willing to do something about it. So you need to be proactive. You will need to really show up and to engage for this to be successful for you. I can't guarantee you at any point in time that you will be free from depression. What I can guarantee you is that this work works. It's been effective for nearly 30 years. It's helped, tens into hundreds of thousands of people around the world. And you have to say yes. You have to participate in order for it to work. So the onus will be on you. We will show up with beautiful trainers, amazing staff, techniques that are time proven in many cultures with people from all walks of life. And ultimately, it's up to you. I'll tell you what happened to me when I first came to the journey. I'd suffered from bad to medium cyclical depression since childhood. A lot of depression is set up by childhood trauma, or even trauma later in life can be, for sure. But the earlier it gets us, obviously, the more we're going to be conditioned and fall into the patterns of emotional closure. So it started for me at about age 8, went through cyclical depression through the decades, until in the early 1990s, it became impossible. A number of things happened at the same time. My parents both got seriously ill. My mother terminally ill with breast cancer. And she was quite young at that stage of her life. So obviously it was devastating. So with my pattern of closure, my pattern of emotional avoidance, the brown stuff starts to hit the fan in a big way. And I started to collapse, started to really enter that deep, dark place that you feel there's no way out of. And then my marriage took the strain of this, of course, and that fell apart. At the time, I had a son who was under 2 years of age, And so it was devastating. And I became dysfunctional. The result was definitely, physical pain, physical unwellness, mental dysfunction in a way that affected my career. It affected the way that I could run the business I was in, which was a family business. And so the business started to go downhill. I was not functioning, not at the reins of the business anymore. And it just seemed that there was no way out. Now, I was prescribed with drugs at this point, strong drugs. I'd taken them previously in my life, but this time big doses, SSRIs and uppers, downers, everything to try and moderate my mood. And they had some weird effects, as those of you who have taken them will know. To get yourself on them, you go through some pretty extreme ups and downs until your body begins to tolerate them. And I felt that although I wasn't depressed in the way that I previously was, that I didn't feel like I was myself. I felt like I was being controlled by the drugs. And I had huge amounts of aggression and anger coming up, aimed towards myself, aimed towards other people, masses of fear coming to the surface. And I was in quite a state at this point. So I became stable on the drugs, and after several months on them, a friend said to me, "I've booked you a therapy." And we had met Brandon and some other people in London when they were teaching a seminar there. And my friend Neil said, "I've booked you a therapy." He said, "Brandon's got this new work. It's called The Journey. And, you've got a private session." And I was like, okay. At this point, I was pretty broke because my businesses had disappeared. So it was almost all the money I had to be able to pay for the therapy. And I turned up with no expectations at all. I was just beyond it. I didn't think that depression would ever leave my life. I'd been told it was genetic. I'd been told that I would probably be on drugs for the rest of my life. I'd been told that if I ever were to be able to come off them, we'd have to negotiate and eke this out over a long period of time. So on the drugs, pretty much, up to the eyeballs with the SSRIs and the temazepam and the rest of it, I turned up for therapy and sat down. And for the first time in my life, when someone asked me what I was feeling, and I described the low energy, the low mood, the lack of motivation, the lack of pleasure or joy in life, the person I was working with said, "Great. So just feel that." Now, nobody had ever told me that before in my life. Nobody had ever said that a bad emotion was good. But there was this person, this therapist, going, "This is okay. You can welcome it." I was like, okay, that's new. That's unusual. And he said, "Close your eyes." So obviously I closed my eyes. And he said, "If you were to allow this fully, what would be the result? What would you feel?" And I said, it's just horrible. It's so overwhelming. And again, he said, "Great." This was very strange. I'm feeling shitty emotions. And the therapist is going, good, encouraging me. Feel that, feel that. And I said, okay, overwhelmed. What's deeper than that was the next question. If you really open and let go, what's underneath it? And I said, hopelessness. I said, I'm hopeless. My life is hopeless. Everything is hopeless. There's no hope anywhere. Beautiful, great, feel that. And of course I did. And I kept opening, and anger came. Great, feel it all, allow it to come. This is not catharsis, right? This was not yelling out, it's not pillow punching. It was simply opening and allowing, saying yes to the emotions that I'd spent a lifetime closed down to. And fear came, and terror, and the same thing. Great, you're doing beautifully. Just open, allow, feel, go deeper, go deeper. And this is what I did until I came to a place where there was nothing. It felt like everything was disappearing, becoming black. There was no way out. And I said, it's absolute void, nothing. Great. So welcome the void. Now, I'd never done anything like this in my life. So, okay, great. It's risky, but I was in such a place that I was willing to do whatever. That was the truth of it. I was willing to do whatever I was told, just but just for the sake of it. It wasn't that I expected there to be a positive result. It was simply that I was beyond surrender. I'd kind of, given up on my life, was the truth. And then what? And eventually I said, well, death is here. And the therapist said, okay, so death, fear of death, just open, just allow. And I can remember thinking, oh, this is it. My time is up. If I go there, I'll die. And so I just let go. And it was a strange experience. It felt like my body was dissolving. My being was just melting away into nothingness. I just felt that I was disappearing. And I let go into that and experienced it. And then there was a different version of nothing that I couldn't quantify and I couldn't describe. And the therapist said, well, what's here now? What's this? And I thought, stupid question. Death is here. There's nothing. I had no belief in afterlife, no religious kind of, tenets to guide me or hang on to. And that question just seemed ridiculous. And still I opened. And he said, really, what's here? What's in the heart of what you've called death? And again, I let go. And something broke. And I started to cry. And I said, everything is here. Light is here. Grace is here. God is here. I said, there's no inside, there's no outside. It's like, I am everything. Everything is me. And he said, beautiful. So rest as this. And then we continued with the therapy after this crashing awakening that if you let go into the heart of any emotion, however strong, however negative you perceive that to be, you will find a truth that will radically change your life, the way you perceive yourself, the way you perceive others, the way you make choices, the way you live life. And so in this awareness, obviously he took me to a little campfire and my parents turned up and I had a lot to say to them about the way I was hurt, the way I was traumatized, the pains of childhood. I mean, the ways in which I'd been unfairly treated, and I emptied out and came to forgiveness with them, which is a key here. But truthfully, the main and most radical result was in just stopping and opening to feel. I came out of the therapy after about an hour and a half, and I could barely speak. It felt like I'd found what I'd always sought in life. And I discovered myself to be what I was looking for. And so I could barely say thank you. Got in the car as a passenger to get a ride back home with the friend who'd set up the therapy for me. Barely could speak, definitely couldn't tell what I'd been through. And went home and started to let go of the medication. And I'll tell you more about that at a different time, but basically, I mean, it was painful to come off the drugs. I shook and was in physical pain for some time. And then eventually, after about 2 to 3 months, my brain just rewired itself. And in all that time, the time of weaning myself off the medication, I knew that I was okay. I knew that I was untouched. I was essentially positive. And I discovered this not by working for it, not by reaching for it, not by doing anything specific to attain it, but I realized this was my natural state, that this positivity had been covered over with the stories I told myself, with the negativities I'd used to explain away the traumas that I'd experienced in life. I knew that I was essentially okay. And though I looked and checked in with my body, my being, my mind, I also could not find depression. There was no root there left. The door had been, just blown apart and shown to have never existed, was the truth, the paradoxical truth. And I knew that I was whole. And from that time on, I've lived a life that has been quietly, fulfilling, joyous, meaningful, full of love, and positive in ways that I never imagined. I experienced a lot of bliss in life. And if someone had told me that when I was depressed, I'd have gone, yeah, bully for you. You know, you must be some spiritual space cadet or out there, even, you know, whatever you say with people who go a bit loopy. I just didn't believe it previously. And then I got to experience it. So these are the things we're looking at. This is the way we'll handhold you to open and to ask, okay, what are you really feeling here? Because normally we go down a few of those emotional levels that I described to you, and we just stop. And we tell stories about why this should be a different way, why it's not fair to be the way it is, why it should change, who's to blame, whose fault it is, including our own fault very often. And we get caught in a loop. And instead of feeling clean emotions, we end up in a state. We end up in a mood, and it can last a long time. And this is at the core of depression. So I'd love to share with you here a little model that I've put together over the years, just describing what some of the core foundational causes of depression are. And then obviously the triggers come, and they can enhance it. I mean, in a bad way here, or they can reduce it. So look at this with me, and let's see where this takes us. So this is the depression model. Depression in the middle there, that's, you know, deepening. As the blue deepens there, that's representing a deepening of depression. You see at the top and at the bottom, there are two fundamental things there that are required for depression to take place. Start at the bottom here, emotional avoidance. I said this earlier, I want to say it again. Without emotional shutdown, suppression, bracing, depression doesn't happen. It's not the end of all your problems, because a lot of other things can occur. But when we know how to open and to embrace emotions, that's a huge step towards freeing ourselves from depression. And there are ways to do this, ways we can teach you that will fundamentally help you so that your emotions are not in control of your life anymore. The second causal factor, so the two on the outside of this circle here, are necessary in my experience. So we're shutting down emotions, emotional avoidance at the bottom. And here we're telling ourselves a story about emotions. Remember I just said, you know, we reach a certain level and we're asking, why should this be different? How should it be different? Who's to blame? Who's done this to me? Who's caused this? It's as if we can't do anything. We can become disempowered. And the more we fall into depression, the more it feels disempowering and victimizing. Now, this story is key here. When we let the story fall away, so if we are able and willing just to feel a pure emotion, story-free, then that emotion transmutes. It turns into something else and something else and something else, until it releases and lets us off the hook, lets us free. It's a bit like a child. You know, a child gets hurt, say a 2-3-year-old. They're playing with friends, they have a squabble, and it goes from like anger to something else, to sadness, to you know, upset. And, you know, within 2 or 3 minutes, it's almost like they've done what I described to you. They've dropped down through the levels, and then it's like they're back. It's natural. They're back to, yeah, okay, play and get on with life. But when we tell ourselves a story, stories of justification, judgmental stories, blaming stories, critical stories, they weave with our emotions to create a mood or a state. And those moods and states are sticky. They last with us a long time. So part of our job here is going to be to work with old beliefs, to change some old vows and promises, to change some old rules, so that we can begin to let the story drop. And when the story drops, we can begin to feel, and we can feel our way eventually into freedom. So those two are necessary here. The other 4 factors here These are not comprehensive, by the way. They're just 4 factors that I've found can add in. Once we've got a propensity to shut down and to tell stories about these emotions, other areas of life interact. And let's have a look at them here. Strategy overload. So the way I described to you, I said, you know, the brown stuff hit the fan and it kept coming. So my normal coping strategies got overwhelmed. My normal way of staying on a relatively even keel became swamped. Remember, I said to you, within like 2 or 3 years here, my parents got life-threatening illnesses. My mother died. My marriage imploded. I was separated from my wife and very young son. My business failed. I'd let the family down. So on and on like this, it seemed wherever I turned, circumstances got worse. And when circumstances get worse, what you're used to doing to manage depression gets overwhelmed, completely overloaded. So the more the brown stuff is hitting the fan, the more trauma, the more hurt, the more difficult life circumstances you're going through, the more you get sucked into that depression at the center of the model here. So obviously, we're going to look at circumstances. We're going to look at the ways in which our strategies don't cope when the problems keep coming, and we feel like we're being kicked when we're down. And we're going to find ways to work with this, to release, to forgive, to reconcile ourselves with life as it is, and to move on healthily. Obviously, unsupportive lifestyle, everyone tells us this, you know, they say, well, to get out of depression, you just need to do these things. You need to exercise more. You need to, you know, get out in the fresh air. You need to eat differently. You need to sleep better, like this. And it's like empty noise until you meet the emotional underbelly, the true causes of depression. Then it becomes more natural to look after yourself. So this will happen towards the end of the seminar here. We'll explore some of these lifestyle factors, but I mean, truthfully, they don't become sustainable until you've done the homework here. Can you mute yourselves, please? I can hear someone's phone ringing in the background, and it's not mine. At least I hope it's not mine. Let me just check. No, it's not mine. It's not mine. It's someone else's. So unsupportive lifestyle. What seems impossible now will become easier once you've done the groundwork here. Come down to the left-hand side, expectation gap. You know, the truth is the incidence of depression has increased enormously since the Second World War. Our expectations of what life offers for us, our expectations of medical intervention, our expectations of well-being have changed enormously. In my grandparents' generations and those before, people put up with hardships that truthfully I've never been through. And they felt themselves lucky to survive. And depression just wasn't an option for them. They were so wrapped up in the practicalities of life, the practicalities of surviving and, you know, holding body and soul together and thriving as a family, that it wasn't a consideration for them. But over time, with media being the way it is, with all the images that we get bombarded with of uber wealth, decadent lifestyles, mega wealth, the whole lot of it, you know, it sharpens our expectations. And then we realize we're falling short. We've not been treated like that way, or we've not succeeded in this way. And it leads to massive disappointment that can feed into depression, or not just disappointment, but dissatisfaction that pulls us into that darker center there. So obviously, this is an area we're going to look at. And again, this is an example of opening with what life presents, with accepting life as it is, and allowing the emotions that arise as a consequence to be fully felt and to leave. Because ultimately, they'll leave us in freedom if we do that. And then last factor here, lack of purpose. Purpose is a magical panacea in life. I didn't discover true purpose until after I'd done journey work. And so, there are so many people who have money, have everything you'd think would make them happy, but it doesn't make them happy because they've got no compass. They've got no meaning, purpose, nothing to fulfill them in life. So we're going to explore ways that you can increase that sense of purpose, develop a sense of fulfillment. And obviously, that becomes more effective after you've done the basic journey work here. So the opening, the emptying out of old hurts, old traumas, getting them out of your cells, not catharsis, but just allowing the words that the emotions drive to the surface to come out. And then coming to forgiveness, forgiveness of yourself, forgiveness of others, those who've hurt us, those who've abused us. And by the way, that is possible with, I want to say, pretty much no matter what you've been through. I've worked with people who have forgiven the souls of others who have abused and damaged them in horrible ways. So in forgiveness, to be very clear here, we can forgive the soul of someone else. We do not need to condone the behavior. We do not need to open ourselves to those types of behavior being in our life ever again. It's forgiveness in order to ourselves let go. A number of years ago, Nelson Mandela said, holding on to resentments is like swallowing poison and expecting your enemy to die. There's a lot of truth in this. We hold on to resentments. We hold back on forgiveness, feeling that that's going to show them, pay them back, as if it's about the other person. And we don't realize the damage that does to us internally. It's pernicious and it's causing us problems in the long term. So we'll find ways to come to forgiveness of the being, forgiveness of the soul, even if the behavior is something we say absolutely no to in life. These things all together are going to take us in a very positive direction. They're going to open some doors for us. They're going to make some fundamental changes in our lives. I'd like to give you a small taste of this, if I may. Let's come back to this story about emotions here, okay? So we've said a pure emotion can be felt and can come and go, leaves us here like a child. Add story in, that's when it gets messy. That's when it gets sticky. So let me stop that share a moment. Just for the moment, I'm going to suggest you can turn your camera off if you like. I'm going to do that. And then I'm going to guide you through a little closed eye introspection just to illustrate to you how that can work in your life. So turn your camera off if you like. Then find a comfortable, relaxed position and just close your eyes for a moment or two here. I'm going to take a sip of water before I do this. Okay, so with closed eyes, take a lovely long deep breath in and relax, release as you breathe all the way out. And slow your breathing right down. Let each breath draw awareness inside the body. Putting attention deep down inside. And then relaxing, opening. And as you relax and open, in your mind's eye, go back to a recent time when you had an argument, an upset with someone. Please don't make this like the nemesis of your whole life, just some upset. Someone disagreed with you, someone criticized or judged you fairly recently. Okay, let's keep it recent. And so you go back to that time and just step into that picture. This person or people, they're there, you're there, and you just open to experience what took place. What words were said? Whisper this out. If you said words, if they said words, just whisper out some of them. What was it that upset you? If it was an action that upset you or a circumstance, just describe it, just whisper it out. Okay, beautiful. What else? What else? Okay, just pause there, stay in this awareness. And now ask, What story are you telling yourself about this person, these people, this circumstance? What's your internal commentary on it? And let those words come out of your mouth. If you're judging them, use those words. Criticizing them, use those words. If it's unfair, if you're a victim, if it shouldn't happen this way, if it should be different, just speak the words of your internal soundtrack out so your own ears can hear them. Maybe they shouldn't have done this. Maybe they're stupid. Whatever it is for you. Thoughtless, uncaring. Speak the words out so your own ears can hear. And now notice as you speak those words out what it does to the way you feel as you criticize them. Or as you criticize yourself. Or as you tell yourself, this can't be changed, things are hopeless. They'll never change. Whatever it is, just notice the effect of your words, your internal dialogue on the way you feel. It will have some effect. It will either ramp up the emotions or clog them, stymie them, and make them feel heavy, sticky, one or other, normally. Just notice and speak out. What's the difference here when you really use these words about yourself, about them, about life, circumstances? What's the difference? What does it do? Good. Beautiful. Okay. And now, for the sake of contrast, change the soundtrack. So imagine this person was doing the best they could with the resources they had. Imagine it was their issue, not your issue. Imagine the circumstance was random, not personal. An accident, maybe, without meaning. Give the other people here the benefit of the doubt, including yourself. Let yourself know you were doing the best you could with the resources you had at that time. So add some positive spin into this. Speak the words out. You know, it wasn't really their fault. They didn't intend to hurt. They were just being unconscious. They're in pain themselves. It was just a random occurrence, a random accident. And notice the effect this has on the way you feel. Notice the difference. And name that, just whisper it out. What does it do? For me, it's diffusing the potency of the emotions, but there's still something there. Okay, beautiful. Let that come to neutral. And then just very quickly here, for some of you, this will be easy. For some of you, you may not get it fully, but just play with me for a start. Go back to the original emotion that you felt, the way you felt here. So this circumstance has happened, these words have been spoken, and you feel a certain way. And give yourself permission to feel that. And notice where in your body you feel it. And then let the story go completely. Let the words melt and fall away. All the judgments just fade. The criticisms dissolve. The dialogue, the pictures, they just melt. All the story falls away and you open into the heart of the emotion that's here. You just give yourself permission, knowing this is okay. Noticing where it is in the body and then just falling into it. Into the heart, whispering out. What's deeper than this? What's next? Or in the heart of it. Whisper that. Beautiful. It's hurt arising here. And then deeper than that, in the heart of that, what's next? Just soften the body. Use your breath to carry you right into the heart of the emotion. humiliation here. Let it spread, let it turn itself up, no matter how powerful. Just open your body, relax, and dive right into the heart. Into the heart. Keep dropping down to something deeper, opening into the core. Whatever comes up, you just whisper it out. Shame here. For you, what is it? Whisper it. And open into the heart, even as the words come out of your mouth. Just relax and let go. What's next? Beautiful. Good job. What's next? Go deeper. And go deeper. Eventually, you may come to a nothingness, an emptiness. That's fine. Just welcome it like an emotion. Whatever's here, let it be everywhere. Inside, outside, and just keep letting go. Inwards, into it. Right into the epicenter. If there was something coming through pinholes in this nothingness, if there was something arising right out of the core of it, what might that be? What is that? It's all welcome. It's all safe. Just give yourself permission. Let go. And keep letting go. Into the heart of everything. Light here. What is it for you? Whisper it out. Keep opening. Everything, nothing. The infinite, divine. Keep opening. Keep letting go. Right into the core. And if expansiveness is here, let that be everywhere. Rest as it. And if strong emotion is still here, give it full permission just to be here. Don't touch it, just allow. And keep opening right into the core of the core of the core. It's such a relief when we stop wrestling with emotions, stop resisting them. Something shifts. So just allow. Keep allowing. Beautiful. And as you rest here, just welcoming for a moment a mentor, a divine being, a sage, a saint, presence of the divine. And ask this presence if they had some words of advice to give you. What would they say? What would they want you to know? Let them speak. The mentor here is saying, keep accepting, keep welcoming, keep opening for a lifetime. What is your mentor saying to you? What does she or he advise? Beautiful. And taking that on board. If you like the advice, making it a part of you, welcoming it into your cells. And then thanking the mentor, letting him or her disappear into the light of all awareness. And freshly, you can just open, allow awareness to come back to the space in which you're sitting. Come back to neutral. Take a beautiful long deep breath in. And sigh it out. You can open your eyes when you're ready. Welcome yourself back by turning your camera back on. So I know that was very quick there. I'm aware of time restraints here, but I'm hoping that gave you something of a taster so that you get it when story mixes with emotion. It messes with us. It keeps us stuck in a loop, and it gets stale, and eventually it gets a bit rotten. You know, our own minds get unhealthily attached, and it messes with us. And yet, when you allow that story to drop, when you open emotionally, when you keep opening and welcoming, eventually a door into the divine, a door into the truth of who you are presents itself as being open. And that can change everything in your life. So there's a lot more to the weekend than this. I'm just trying to give you here a flavor of this. You can see now why I was saying you have to choose. You have to choose to help yourself. You have to be willing to stop, to turn inwards, to decide to help yourself. If you decide to do that, all help is here for you. And the techniques that have been developed over the last 30 years absolutely work. We've testimonies after testimony from people thanking for the new life that's being lived, for the falling away of depression. Same with anxieties and stresses. They can be treated in exactly the same way here. So, Daniel, please, would you come back and just let me know if there are a quick question or two that has arisen here, been posted. Maybe I can answer those, and then maybe you can speak to us a little further.
Hey, Kevin, amazing. Thank you so much for taking us through an actual experience and also the model that you developed over 30 years about what is depression and the factors. I really hope people got a taste of what this work is about.
My time is short, but you know, it's my passion. So many people heal that, you know, given the decision, there's no reason to stay locked in depression. There are many things you can do.
There are two questions here. One is it normal to feel tired after this?
Yes. Short answer, yes. You need to take some downtime. You know, when you meet emotions like this, it can be quite tumultuous and it stirs things up inside us. It's something for a lot of us we're not used to, and it can be tiring. It can be tiring from an emotional perspective. And also, a strange thing happens, you know, when we work in this way, toxicity leaves the body. And I know this sounds a bit woo-woo, but I promise you it's a literal truth. And our cells hold on to residues that are associated with old shutdown emotions. And those smells can come off us. The toxicity comes out of our cells, and that can be tiring. So yes, I want to say, if you feel tired, drink a lot of water, obviously get some rest, and just be quiet. And it will pass. It's normally, like, you know, depending on how long you've worked for and how deeply, it will be an hour, you know, a few hours, something like this. But yes, it's normal.
Thank you. A question from one of our friends from Israel who said, how do you deal with the sort of depression that comes from our government moving into tyranny? And yeah, I wonder if you could just say.
Well, the key here, Daniel, I mean, I mentioned the phrase a few times here. If you are willing to just stop, so stop the judgment, stop the criticism, stop the stories, and to open with life as it is, and that includes opening with people as they show up with, you know, the ego, the stupidity, the craziness. If you open and really inquire, how does that make me feel? So without, in this moment, wanting to change anything, then you can get to your own hook that is deep in there. Normally, it will take us back to some circumstance from quite early in life, but it can be later. But for most of us, these patterns have been set up since childhood. Something's happened there that has conditioned us in a certain way, and we react according to that early conditioning throughout life. And so it's not a complete answer, but it will affect our viewpoint. It will affect our emotional response to what's taking place. I think for most of us, you know, we can't directly affect macro world events, but what we can do and what we are in control of is our own responses. And we can open, we can allow, and we can move forward healthily, making changes, contributions where that's possible. And the rest, what we can't affect, can't influence, then, you know, it becomes I mean, maybe a tender part of life, but an accepted part of life, accepted part of who we are.
One more question just came in, Kevin. I'm currently taking antidepressants for ADHD. Can the
Okay.
latter also be helped with this work? I'm scared to get off the medication.
Okay, so look, I mean, if you're on medication, please listen to your doctor as far as that is concerned. And the short answer is yes, given the decision. ADHD, same principles apply here. You know, ADHD is in some ways the opposite of depression in that it makes us hyperactive when we're trying to avoid certain emotions. You know, depression is a shutdown, and we go, okay, so I'm scared, I'm enraged, I'm terrified, I'm overwhelmed, don't know how to handle it, so we shut down. With ADHD, same fears around emotions exist, but instead of shutting down, we spring into action. And you know, we burn ourselves out, get exhausted in these ways. So it's akin to depression in some ways and can be treated in the same way. And one thing I do want to say here is that, you know, there are other causes of depression, and you know, a few little pointers here. And postpartum depression is significantly driven by hormonal shifts. And so the first thing you do there is see a hormone specialist and get that type of treatment. Then this work can be very effective in helping you to respond differently to circumstances. Some kind of catastrophic injuries, particularly brain injuries, can cause depression. We know this. And so, you know, if you need surgery, get the surgery. If you need to see a medical professional, do that. This is complementary work. And so I want to encourage people to yes, see professionals and still to turn up and to try this work. It's liberating work on a broad scale. So I'm going to say it's worthwhile for anyone who suffers from depression, stress, anxiety, ADHD, what they used to call manic depression, so bipolar disorder. I've seen it work for all these conditions and a whole host of other things as well. So
Wonderful.
yes, and with the caveat, please listen to your doctor and follow her or his advice.
There's one more question, Kevin, that came in. A person who messaged me directly, so I guess he wants me to not share, or she doesn't want me to share a name.
Okay.
He or she's been dealing with depression for over 30 years and has been through many traumas in life. Can there really be a sustainable change?
Yeah.
Or is this a lifetime of work to slowly get?
It's not a lifetime of work, and I want to say that it gets better over time. I mean, I'd had severe trauma from childhood, and started from the age of 4 or 5, crystallized it by 8. I was really messed up. By my teens, quite dysfunctional in a lot of ways, and I lived with that for nearly 30 years. So until I was 37, going on 38, and then this work. I mean, I woke up, and depression just left. Now, that's not to say all my life issues are fixed, because I've been through a lot of trauma. There was a lot of work to do. But truthfully, I went at it with some enthusiasm, with some glee, because I knew it was possible. There was a part of me going, hey, you know, if I can heal depression, what else can I fix in my life? What else can I clear out? I was like, let me at it, let me at it. And so, you know, I'm going to say this has become a habit for me. I'm still doing journey work after 30 years of the work. And I just enjoy doing it. You know, if I've got issues that arise, I've got the tools, I've got the wherewithal to handle it. And within the restraints, obviously, of a 3-day weekend, we're going to teach as many tools as we can. We want people to take away life skills with them. So this is not just a, condensed, we'll do it to you. We'll show you how you can do this to yourself. We'll show you how you can use this ongoing in life whenever you need it. So win-win.
Thank you so much. Can I ask Olga to please, or Chris to put the link?
Somebody's asking, there is another weekend. I just want to say there will be more weekends, and we don't have anything scheduled for this year. So it will be next year before we do this again. There'll be roughly, well, I'm not going to say they're going to be once a year, because I don't know. There will definitely be one next year. Don't have the dates yet. Yeah.
I love to just share a little bit on my screen about the event, and you can see the link has just been put into the chat for everyone to see. And I just want to, number one, name that this is a workshop that has been running for years that Kevin used to run around the world with co-presenters. And what's different now, what's new at this time, it is something you can actually do from the comfort of your home. We literally have put all of the journey curriculum online now. That means even this workshop Out of the Blue is now an online retreat that you can do with Kevin. I was there with Kevin when we recorded some of the core videos. Arnold Timmerman is the co-presenter, will guide you through the work. I've actually produced with Kevin together a almost 100-page workbook. So this is not just a 3-day experience, but you walk away with the tools. What I also want to point out to you is right here. 18th to the 20th of October. And we really wanted to make sure that this is affordable to anybody. Money should not stand in the way of you having this relief and being able to healing from depression. So 199 euros for the 3-day workshop. There is a discount down from 297, which is also an incredibly high value, very, very affordable price. But if you are here today out of the blue, EB, early bird, OOTBEB. If you put that into your checkout card in your checkout session, the price will be taken down to just 199. Now, this is limited until the 2nd of September. Our events, they're not limitless places at these events, because in the journey, we always have a very high ratio of trainers to attendees, that you really get the help, because we're going to do hands-on work here. So please take a time, look at this page, make sure you maybe even click on the link right now that Olga has shared with you. So it's open in your browser when this webinar ends. And if there are any more questions, you can always email us at support@thejourney.com. Questions about today's content, question about the retreat. And also, if you know of anybody who you know is suffering from depression or even low mood, anxiety, some of the stresses, the constant challenges, then please send them our way. Send them to either the replay of this webinar or directly to the workshop. It would be really kind of you to do so. Kevin, any last words? We said we wanted to condense it in an hour. Please.
To introduce Arnold, please, because he's going to be the host for this weekend. So, Chris, can you bring Arnold to meet with us, please? Arnold, hey mate, good to see you. For those of you watching here, I've known Arnold for 20-something years. I don't know. I've stopped counting Arnold. I think he's a man of great integrity. He's a man with a huge heart. He's a man with a clear brain. He's a man of great wisdom, and he's going to take great care of you on the weekend. Arnold he's a compassionate soul who is also emotionally intelligent, mentally intelligent. He knows this work inside and out. He has amazing experience at it, and he's got a beautiful team working with him. I just wanted to ask you one thing, Arnold. What's your prayer for the people who turn up at this weekend?
Oh, to really experience the very elegant ways in which their bodies and beings can open to pretty much everything that is life. Yeah, that's been the experience of facilitating the Out of the Blue seminars before in live version.
I think it's a big part of it, isn't it? You know, when we stop fighting with life, when we stop fighting with what is, with circumstances, and we know to let go of the story and to open emotionally, massive changes, right?
Yeah, and beyond what our mind can conceive of. That's what I think is the beauty of it. And as you keep pointing out, it's really the invitation. When there's this internal yes, then it's just a matter of trying it out, and the rest follows from there. And,
I was trying to say at the beginning, you know, you can't figure this out. You can't analyze it. You've really got to step into it. Give it permission to work on you, and then try it. You have to do the practical work to get the results. You can't figure it and analyze and come to the same result. So it's a good point there. Well, I know people are in great hands with you, Arnold. I hope you have an amazing weekend there. My teachings are the recordings that I've picked the best of everything that I know to put into those recordings. So if it's not there, I'm sure you'll teach the difference and you'll give people the hands-on experience, Arnold. So thank you. I know they're in very good hands.
I'm looking forward to it. Yeah.
Blessings, man. Blessings. So huge thanks to everyone for being here. I hope we're going to see you on the weekend. As Daniel was saying, if you've got any questions, please post them to support at the, or email them to support@thejourney.com. We'll do our best to answer those questions and to help you out. And any other questions, I think they'll go to the same email address, and Claire or one of the staff there will do their best to support you. So I look forward to seeing you in person, or seeing you vicariously in person. I look forward to hearing about the results at the end of the workshop as well. I just wanted, let me show you one thing before we go here. I'm sorry to do this. I just want to, now it's shut down. I can't do it. Okay, we'll show you on the weekend. We had some research done in Australia by Monash University, and it's just showing the efficacy of the work. And I wanted to show you that graph, but it's time has gone on. We're 5 minutes over time anyway. People with anxiety, people with stress, people with depression showed significant improvement 1 month after the workshop, and we went back and measured the results. So yes, the possibilities exist. This doesn't need to be a life sentence. You really can make a choice here that will affect the rest of your life, and I pray you do that. So blessings, namaste. Thank you for being here. Thank you for your time, for your energy, for your attention, and we'll see you down the line. Bye for now. Thank you.